Tesla got wrecked today. In fact, the whole stock market got destroyed today. But have no fear because I think our fortunes might turn. And all I can say is you're welcome. You're welcome. No, I'm just kidding. If you guys can't tell, I got a haircut today. Hopefully that brings us some good juju for the coming days because you know what? We're going to need it. Tesla down 9% in a given day after last week's just demolishing of the stock. It's the entire stock market is just going through a beating ever since we got the Fed news about the 50 basis point. We rallied one day and then all of a sudden we just started to sell off like no other time that I can remember in quite a long time, definitely over a year. So we are essentially back to the lows of where we were for 2022, and we are essentially back to where we were in 2020. All right, we are in just a horrible downturn when it comes to the stock market. So what's there? Is there anything that can get us out of this? Right? What do we do from here? Well, the first thing we do is we take stock of where we're at and where we think things will go. And the most important thing is to remember that at least if you follow the philosophy of this channel, investing against the grain, we're looking at the next 10 years, right? So the first thing we have to understand is that as long as you're in stocks, you should be fine, right? All this price movement, don't worry about it, right? Because we're looking down the road. Now, if you have options, well, this is where I will provide some reminders, things. If you're trading options or if you're in options, I assume you already know this stuff. None of this financial advice, but hey, sometimes you just need to hear it from someone else. Protect what you're doing, all right? If you have anything closing soon or anything coming up for expiration, you might want to roll it out. You might want to take the loss. Think about what you need to do there, all right? If you have things that are further out, leaps or whatnot, maybe you're fine. Check what's going on with your theta, right? That's your time decay. Make sure that you're okay there and make sure you manage what's happening with that, okay? Options are very finicky like that. So don't forget to do that. But if you are in stocks, honestly, I don't think there's that much to worry about. Where are we right now? What's happening? Why is all this happening? Is it because Tesla's fundamentals? Is it because Tesla as a company has changed? Is there an issue with the business? Do they not have demand? Do they have too much debt? Can they not get capital? Are they on the verge of bankruptcy? Well, no, it's not 2018. We don't have any of those issues. Tesla is as healthy as it's ever been. I would argue Tesla is maybe the best situated company outside of Apple. Maybe Microsoft is up there. I mean, honestly, I think the strongest companies right now, you know how everyone talks about FANG, right? Facebook, Apple, Netflix, and Google. Well, as far as I'm concerned, the new acronym should be TAM, you know, the acronym for total addressable market, but it should be TAAM. So Tesla, Alphabet, Apple, and Microsoft. To me, those are the strongest companies in the entire tech industry and just the entire market, period. So when it comes to Tesla, we are in such a good position. We essentially have no debt. We're printing money. We got more demand than we know what to do with. We already have factories built so we can scale up more. We've got the best suppliers. We've got the best deals when it comes to contracts for raw materials like nickel and lithium, etc. Right? Tesla's in a very good position. In fact, with gas prices going up, guess what that does? That creates more demand for electric vehicles. And guess who's the only company that's really putting out electric vehicles? Tesla. Sure, you got Volkswagen, but even Volkswagen admits that they cannot keep up with what Tesla's doing, that they're essentially maxed out for right now. And yeah, there's BYD, and they're going to take their market share in China, but really, in the US, in Europe, there's no real competition. It's all Tesla. So as gas prices go up, it just gives more demand towards Tesla. And don't forget about all these EV tax credits we're seeing potentially in the US, we're seeing in Europe, right? We're seeing in China, right? This is the best position you could possibly be in for Tesla. In fact, you couldn't make it up any better because while all these other OEMs try to transition to electric vehicles, try to create their new factories, try to make the transition from ICE to electric vehicles, well, they're in a pickle because it takes money, it takes capital to do everything they're doing, and they're investing heavily into it, billions and billions of dollars that they just don't have, so they have to take loans out on it. And guess what? That is why these growth companies get huge compression whenever we have interest rates go up because the cost of capital is higher. And if you're borrowing, well, you're going to pay more for that money you borrow. And Tesla doesn't need to do that. all their competition has to do it. They all need to borrow. They all need to build. They all need to do everything just to catch up to Tesla. And all Tesla's doing is ramping up factories that are already built. So in reality, as far as the company goes, it is as strong as it's ever been. All right. So I'm not worried about the company. Now with the macro environment, that's a whole different ball game. All right. There's all kinds of things going on. You have Elon with the whole Twitter thing going on, right? That is, I don't want to say it's a mess, but that's a distraction on its own. Some people like it. Some people don't like it. All right. Put that over there. But then you have the whole Russia-Ukraine thing. And for a while, it seemed like that was kind of dissipating, kind of out of the news. But today was, victory day for Russia. And the threats they're having, talking about nuclear weapons, and the West isn't taking it serious, right? All that kind of rhetoric heightened again over the weekend. At this point, it just seems like these open veiled threats, which hopefully they remain that way, right? We don't want anything to escalate in that perspective, but I think Russia needs to find a win. And I think their win is to formulate a story, a narrative of all we want to do was go into Ukraine, attack certain strategic military sites and certain regions, and we did that, and then take over parts of the Donbass area. And they're doing that. And so I could honestly see where that starts to wind down. So that's the Russia-Ukraine thing. Who knows how that plays out, but I think that's how it might play out. As time goes on, it's starting to feel more and more like that. So we've got Ukraine, Russia, we've got Twitter, and then we've got the main event. The Fed, interest rates, all that stuff going on, inflation. And we'll really start to see that on Wednesday when we get, I believe it's Wednesday, when we get the CPI numbers out. And based on what it seems and based on what everyone is saying, at least the sentiment out there, the rumors, the whispered numbers, it seems like inflation may have peaked in April. If that's the case, I think we will definitely see a recovery, a relief rally in the market. However, be aware, be wary of what could happen. If inflation is seen to be higher and it's higher than what the expectations were, well, we might be in for some real trouble in the markets. And this has nothing to do with Tesla. This is just the macros having an effect on all of the indices. Now, there's some other things to just be aware of. We still don't have the numbers for Tesla China Giga Shanghai delivery sale numbers for the month of April. Keep in mind, that was the month where we had about 2 weeks roughly of shutdown for Tesla Shanghai, and then they had to ramp up slowly. So that might weigh a bit on the stock as well, right? I mean, although we already knew this and maybe it's already priced in, it also might not be, right? Just seeing the headlines and seeing what the media does, how they run with this, you never know. Gordon Johnson will be out there trying to spin some narrative about why Tesla has issues and they don't have China demand, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of things that are going on right now. And it seems like where we were just about in a place to just go ahead and start recovering into the end of May, right now we're kind of back on our heels. So don't be back on your heels. Think about worst case scenarios and what you would do. We talk about this as engineers all the time. Whenever you make a decision, you always want to think, what is the worst possible outcome? If that worst possible outcome happens, one, can you live with it? And two, how would you react? How would you deal with it? And that way, at least you've already planned for the worst possible situation. So my advice to you is think about these things. Think about the worst possible situation. What would you do? What actions would you take within your portfolio, if any? All right? These are important things to keep in your mind. Even if they don't come to fruition, it's always best to be prepared. All right, with that said, I know that this is kind of coming off maybe a little doom and gloom, and that's not my intention. My intention is just to paint the picture of what could happen. Now, in reality, what I think will probably happen, and maybe it's just me being overly optimistic, right? It's hard to not be optimistic, right? Especially with all the negativity we have right now, as much as we sold off. It just feels like we are at a point where we should start really seeing some relief rallies here. We've just sold off so much so quickly that it seems like one of these days we're going to start to have a little bit of a relief. So what I see happening is CPI data comes out good, all right? Tesla China numbers come out, and maybe they're a little bit better than what we actually anticipated. I'm not saying they're great. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout, but maybe it wasn't as bad as we thought, and we actually can see signs of Tesla ramping up. Or maybe that's not the case. Who knows? But I think if we can see inflation starting to slow down, then maybe, just maybe, we can get onto the other side of this and we can start to find some kind of base here and maybe even a bottom, right? Famous last words. But that's where I see things going right now. This is a very important week. Make sure you are paying attention to what's going on. Be aware, have a game plan, and don't get caught not knowing what you're going to do in the case the worst thing happens. All right. With that said, we're going to leave it there. For all of you, especially if you stuck to the end, keep an eye out tomorrow. I'm joining Farzad on his channel, so we'll be talking probably a lot about this. We'll talk about full self-driving, talk about all kinds of things. So you can catch me over there. I'm not sure when he'll air it, but just keep an eye out for it. I assume it will probably be out tomorrow. All right, we're going to leave it there. Do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that bell. I love you all. Peace.